Look, I'm 82 years old, been married for 58 years now, and in all that time I've watched, I don't know, hundreds of marriages around me. Friends, family, neighbors, people I worked with. Some of them made it, most didn't. And here's the thing nobody wants to hear. The marriages that failed, every single one of them followed the exact same pattern, stage by stage, decision by decision. It's like they were all reading from the same script, you know? The same script that just leads straight to divorce court. I'll give you an example. 1974. My best friend John married his college sweetheart, Sarah. Beautiful wedding. I mean, everyone said they were perfect together. 8 years later, 1982, they were divorced. She got the house, he got weekends with the kids. And I watched the whole thing happen in slow motion. Couldn't stop it though, because I didn't understand the pattern yet. I didn't see it. Then in 1988, my brother and his wife, they'd been together 15 years. They split up. 2 kids, a mortgage, a whole life they'd built together. Just gone. And he told me, he said he didn't see it coming. But me? I was starting to see something. Like a sequence, a progression, you know? By the year 2000, I'd witnessed 47 marriages end. Some were friends, some were family. Some were couples I'd known for decades. And that's when it finally clicked for me. They all failed the same way. Every single one went through the exact same 7 stages. And here's what should terrify anyone who's married right now. Most couples are already at stage 3 and they have no idea they're even in the pattern. No clue. Now this isn't about blame, okay? This isn't about who's right or who's wrong. This is about a mathematical progression that just destroys marriages. And once you're past stage 4, the statistics say you're not coming back. You're just not. Before I show you these 7 stages, you need to understand what marriage collapse actually looks like. Not in the movies, in real life. Marriage collapse doesn't start with affairs or screaming matches. It starts with distance, small distances, a conversation that doesn't happen, a feeling you don't share, a need you don't express. At first, the distance is invisible. You're still saying, "I love you." You're still sleeping in the same bed. You still show up to family dinners together. But beneath all that, the connection is cracking. Intimacy gets replaced by routine. Conversation gets replaced by logistics. Partnership gets replaced by just coexisting. Then comes the acceleration. Small resentments become big ones. Silence becomes hostility. Distance becomes contempt. And suddenly, and I mean suddenly, the things that made you choose each other become the things you can't stand. Those quirks you found charming, annoying. The differences you found exciting, incompatible. That future you planned together feels like a trap. That's not theoretical, okay? That's what happened to John and Sarah. That's what happened to my brother. That's what happened to 47 couples I watched just disintegrate. And it happened because they made exactly the same mistakes at exactly the same stages. They believed their love was enough. They ignored the warning signs. They thought, "We're different. This won't happen to us." And they refused to accept reality until divorce was already inevitable. So let me show you how it actually happens. 7 stages, the exact same way every time. Stage 1, the silence about small things. This is where every failing marriage begins, with small things that don't get said. John and Sarah got married in 1974. The first year was perfect, or so it seemed. But looking back, John told me later, the pattern started in month 3. Sarah had a habit of making plans without checking with him first. She'd commit them to dinner with her parents, to helping her sister move, to weekend trips, small things. John didn't say anything. He thought it was easier to just go along. He thought it didn't matter. It mattered. Every time he stayed silent, the message she received was, "This is fine." So she kept doing it. And every time she did it, his resentment grew a little bit. Not consciously, not dramatically, just a tiny bit of distance, a small reduction in enthusiasm, a minor withdrawal of energy. This is stage 1, the silence about small things. It seems harmless. It seems like you're being easygoing, like you're picking your battles, like you're being mature. But what you're actually doing is teaching your partner that your needs don't matter, that your feelings aren't worth discussing, that distance is acceptable. My wife and I almost fell into this trap in year 2. She had a habit of leaving cabinet doors open, everywhere, kitchen, bathroom, closets. I'd walk into them in the dark, hit my head, get annoyed. For 6 months, I didn't say anything. I thought it was too petty to bring up. I thought I was being a good husband by not complaining. Then one night, I hit my head hard enough to see stars, and instead of speaking up, I slammed the cabinet door. She heard it. She asked what was wrong, and instead of telling the truth, I said nothing. That's stage 1. The small thing that should take 30 seconds to resolve becomes a buried resentment. Here's what people don't understand about stage 1. It's not about the cabinet doors. It's not about the plans without checking. It's about establishing the pattern. Do we talk about small annoyances or do we bury them? Do we express minor needs or do we pretend we don't have them? Do we maintain open communication or do we start building walls? The couples who survive stage 1 are the ones who speak up early, who say, "Hey, when you make plans without checking with me first, I feel like my time doesn't matter." Who say, "Can you try to remember to close the cabinet doors? I keep walking into them." Small conversations, easy fixes, no drama. The couples who fail stage 1 are the ones who stay silent, who think they're being noble, who believe that love means never having to say you're annoyed. Those couples move directly into stage 2, and that's where things start to accelerate. Stage 2, the shift from we to me. Stage 2 is subtle. It happens so gradually that most couples don't notice until it's already locked in. By 1976, John and Sarah had been married 2 years. The small silences had become a habit. She made plans without checking. He went along without enthusiasm. But something had shifted. John started making his own plans without checking with her. Golf on Saturday mornings, drinks with the guys on Friday nights. Not asking, just informing. Sarah did the same. Girls' weekends, shopping trips, dinner with friends. They were still married, still living together. But they'd stopped operating as a unit. This is stage 2, the shift from we to me. Instead of, "What are we doing this weekend?" it becomes, "I'm doing this." Instead of, "Should we buy this?" it becomes, "I bought this." Instead of, "Where should we go on vacation?" it becomes, "I want to go here." My brother and his wife hit stage 2 around year 7. He started coaching Little League without discussing it with her. 3 nights a week plus Saturday mornings. She started taking night classes without discussing it with him. 2 nights a week plus homework. On paper, they were pursuing interests, being individuals, maintaining their identities, all things that marriage counselors say are healthy. But here's what they missed. They'd stopped making decisions together. They'd stopped considering each other's input. They'd stopped operating as a team. They were roommates with a shared mortgage, not partners building a life. The symptom of stage 2 is scheduling. You open your calendar and realize you haven't had a meaningful conversation with your spouse in 2 weeks. You haven't eaten dinner together in 5 days. You haven't been intimate in 3 weeks. You're busy. They're busy. And nobody is making the relationship a priority. My wife and I hit stage 2 in year 9. We had 2 kids by then. She was focused on the children. I was focused on my career. We'd have entire days where the only conversations were logistics. Can you pick up Sarah from soccer? Did you pay the electric bill? We need milk. We were coordinating, not connecting. One night I came home from work at 9 p.m. She'd already put the kids to bed. She was watching TV. I sat down next to her. We sat in silence for 20 minutes, and I realized I had nothing to say to her. Not because I didn't love her, but because we'd become strangers who shared a house. That's stage 2, the erosion of partnership, the replacement of us with you and me. And here's the danger. Stage 2 feels stable. It can last for years. You're not fighting. You're not miserable. You're just living parallel lives. And everyone tells themselves the same lie. This is normal. This is what marriage becomes. This is just how it is with kids, careers, responsibilities. No, this is stage 2. And if you don't recognize it and reverse it, you move into stage 3. And that's where most divorces are already locked in. Stage 3. The resentment that builds in silence. This is the stage where most couples are right now without knowing it. By 1978, John and Sarah were at stage 3. They'd been living parallel lives for 2 years. She had her world. He had his world. They intersected for bill paying, social obligations, and increasingly rare physical intimacy. But beneath the surface, resentment was building. John resented that she still made plans without checking with him. But now it wasn't about the plans. It was about feeling disrespected. Feeling like his opinion didn't matter. Feeling like she didn't value his time or his input. He never said this. He just withdrew more. Sarah resented that he never helped with the house. She worked too. She was tired too. But she was the one who noticed the dishes, the laundry, the kids' school forms. He'd sit on the couch while she cleaned. Not because he was lazy, but because he didn't see it. And she never asked him to help. She just resented him for not offering. This is stage 3, the resentment that builds in silence. It's not one big thing. It's 1,000 small things that never get addressed. The dinner where she talked for 20 minutes and you didn't ask a single follow-up question. The night he wanted intimacy and you were too tired, and he acted hurt instead of understanding. The vacation where you wanted the beach and she wanted the mountains, and somehow you ended up doing neither, and both feeling disappointed. My brother hit stage 3 in year 10. His wife resented his coaching schedule. 3 nights a week, plus Saturdays. She felt like a single parent. But she never said it directly. She'd make comments. Must be nice to have so much free time. Wish I could pursue my hobbies. Passive-aggressive shots that he'd ignore or deflect. He resented her spending. She'd buy things for the house, clothes for the kids, stuff they didn't need. He worked 50 hours a week, felt like the money disappeared. But he never addressed it directly. He'd just sigh when packages arrived. Make comments about the credit card bill. Withdraw physically when she wanted to go shopping. Neither of them said what they actually felt. So the resentment just accumulated, like plaque in arteries, slowly blocking the flow of love and respect until the relationship is starving for oxygen. Here's what resentment does to a marriage. It changes how you see your partner. The person you fell in love with becomes the source of your unhappiness. The quirks you found charming become character flaws. The differences you found exciting become incompatibility. You start keeping score. Remembering every time they disappointed you, forgetting every time they came through. I watched my brother's marriage at stage 3 for 2 years. I saw it in how they talked to each other, the little edge in her voice, the way he'd tense up when she walked in the room, the absence of laughter, the presence of obligation. They looked like a married couple. They acted like business partners who didn't like each other very much. My wife and I hit stage 3 in year 12. We had the parallel lives, the logistical conversations. And beneath it, I was resentful. I resented that she'd stopped trying, stopped dressing up, stopped initiating intimacy, stopped being interested in my work. I felt like I'd become an ATM and a babysitter. I never said this. I just worked more, stayed at the office later, found reasons not to come home. She was resentful too. I learned this later. She resented that I was never present, that I'd check my phone during dinner, that I'd agree to help with the kids and then get emergency work calls, that I'd promise to be home by 6 and show up at 8. She felt like a single parent married to a ghost. She never said this. She just stopped asking me for anything, stopped expecting anything, stopped hoping. That's stage 3. The silence, the resentment, the slow death of hope. And here's what should terrify you. Stage 3 can last for years, 5, 10, even 15 years. Couples stay in stage 3 because it's stable, not happy, not fulfilling, but stable. You're not fighting constantly. You're functioning. The kids are fed, the bills are paid, the house looks fine from the outside. But stage 3 always ends the same way. Something breaks the equilibrium, a crisis, an affair, a breaking point. And when that happens, you don't go back to stage 1. You accelerate forward into stage 4. And that's where hope starts to die. Stage 4, the breaking point. Stage 4 is the moment when one person realizes they can't do this anymore. For John and Sarah, it happened in 1980. They'd been married 6 years. 6 years of progressive distance, small silences, parallel lives, growing resentment. They looked fine. Friends thought they were happy. But inside the marriage, they were drowning. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, ordinary day. Sarah asked John to come to her company dinner. Important clients. She needed him there. He said yes. Then Friday afternoon he called. Work emergency. Couldn't make it. She'd have to go alone. She went. Smiled through the dinner. Came home at 10 p.m. He was watching TV. She walked past him to the bedroom, closed the door, and something inside her broke. Not dramatically, quietly. The last thread of hope just snapped. She didn't yell, didn't cry. She just knew. This was it. She couldn't do this anymore. The loneliness inside a marriage was worse than being alone. The next morning she asked for a divorce. John was shocked, blindsided. In his mind, they were fine. Not perfect, but what marriage is. They didn't fight. They got along. This came out of nowhere. Except it didn't. It came from stage 1, 2, and 3. 6 years of accumulated distance and resentment. He just hadn't been paying attention. This is stage 4, the breaking point. And here's what people don't understand. The breaking point is almost never about the thing that triggers it. It's not about the missed dinner. It's not about the affair. It's not about the fight over money. Those are just the final straws. The marriage was already dead. The breaking point is just when someone finally admits it. My brother's breaking point came in year 13. His wife asked him to stop coaching for 1 season. Just 1 season. She needed help. She was overwhelmed. The kids were struggling. She needed him present. He said no. Baseball was his thing. The kids on the team needed him. He'd committed. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You've chosen. You've chosen baseball over your family. Now I get to choose too." She filed for divorce 3 weeks later. For my wife and me, we hit stage 4 in year 15. I came home one night at 10 p.m. Again. I'd missed dinner. Again. I'd promised to be there. Again. And when I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. I asked what was wrong. She looked at me and said, "I don't know you anymore, and I don't think you know me, and I don't know if either of us cares." That hit me like a punch to the chest, because she was right. I'd been so focused on work, on providing, on succeeding, that I'd stopped being a husband. I'd stopped being a partner. I'd stopped showing up. And she'd stopped believing I ever would. Stage 4 is the moment of clarity. Usually for one person first. They look at their marriage and realize it's a shell. The love is gone. The respect is gone. The partnership is gone. What's left is obligation and habit. And they're tired. So tired. Tired of being lonely. Tired of being disappointed. Tired of hoping it'll get better. Here's what makes stage 4 so dangerous. The person who reaches it first often doesn't say anything immediately. They don't wake up and announce, "I'm done." They wake up knowing they're done, and they start planning, mentally, emotionally, practically, getting ready to leave. The other partner has no idea, because they're still in stage 3, still operating on autopilot, still assuming things are stable. And then one day their spouse asks for a divorce, and they're shocked, blindsided, confused. How did this happen? It happened over years, through 7 stages. They just weren't paying attention. Stage 4 is the crisis point. And here's the brutal truth. Most marriages don't survive stage 4. Because by the time you get there, the emotional bank account is empty. The goodwill is gone. The benefit of the doubt is exhausted. The person who reached the breaking point has already grieved the marriage. They're not looking to fix it. They're looking to end it. But some marriages survive stage 4. Mine did. Barely. Because when my wife said those words, something in me woke up. Not the comfortable husband who took her for granted. The man who'd chosen her 15 years earlier. The man who'd promised to love her, honor her, cherish her. I'd broken every one of those promises through neglect, through silence, through absence. That night I made a choice. Not to save my marriage out of fear or obligation, but to fight for it, to do whatever it took, to go through stage 5. Stage 5, the decision point. Stage 5 is where the marriage either dies or transforms. After Sarah asked for divorce, John panicked. He didn't want to lose her. He didn't want to lose his family. He wanted to fix things. So he did what most people do. He made promises. I'll change. I'll be better. I'll pay more attention. I'll help more. Just give me another chance. Sarah had heard this before. Different words, same meaning. I'll try harder. Except trying harder doesn't fix stages 1 through 4. You can't fix 6 years of accumulated damage with 3 weeks of effort. John did try. For about 2 months. He came home early. He helped with dishes. He planned date nights. But he didn't understand the pattern. He thought the problem was his actions. But the problem was the foundation, the communication, the partnership, the intimacy. By month 3, he was slipping back. Not consciously, just gravitating to old patterns. And Sarah was watching, waiting, testing. She'd already grieved the marriage. She'd already emotionally moved on. She was just seeing if he could actually change. He couldn't, or wouldn't, or didn't know how. They were divorced by Christmas. This is stage 5. The decision point. After the breaking point, there's a window. Not long. A few months at most. Where the marriage can either die or transform. Not get repaired. Transform. Because you can't go back to what it was. What it was led you here. You have to become something new. My brother hit stage 5 after his wife filed. He quit coaching, started coming home early, helped with the kids, did all the things she'd been asking for. But it was too late. Not because she didn't see the effort, but because the effort was reactive, not genuine. He was trying to stop a divorce, not trying to be a better husband. She could feel the difference. They went to counseling, 3 months of sessions. The counselor asked him why he'd chosen coaching over his family. He gave answers. Time commitment, the kids on the team, not wanting to let people down. The counselor asked the real question. Why was it easier to show up for strangers' kids than your own? He didn't have an answer. The truth he couldn't say. Coaching was easier than being home. Coaching had clear rules and measurable success. Home was messy and complicated and emotional. Coaching gave him validation and appreciation. Home gave him criticism and obligation. So he'd hidden in coaching, used it to avoid intimacy, used it to avoid dealing with stage 1, 2, and 3. By the time he understood this, it was too late. His wife had already made her decision. She'd given him 13 years and hundreds of chances. She was done. For my wife and me, stage 5 lasted 6 months. 6 brutal, painful months where we had to decide if our marriage was worth saving. If we were worth saving. Because here's what nobody tells you about stage 5. It's not romantic. It's not about falling in love again. It's about deciding if you're willing to do the hard work of rebuilding. And most people aren't. The hard work looks like this: therapy, individual and couples. Learning to communicate without defensiveness. Learning to express needs without blame. Learning to listen without preparing your rebuttal. Learning to apologize sincerely. Learning to forgive genuinely. Learning to see your partner as a person again, not an adversary. Learning to rebuild trust one day at a time. Learning to reconnect physically when you've been strangers for years. Learning to date your spouse again. Learning to choose them again. It's exhausting. It's uncomfortable. It requires vulnerability you've spent years protecting yourself from. And here's the thing. Both people have to commit to it. Both people have to want it. Both people have to choose the marriage every single day. One person can't save a marriage alone. My wife and I both chose it. Not easily, not immediately. But we both decided that what we'd built was worth fighting for. That the people we'd become was worth saving. That our future was worth more than our past. We survived stage 5. Most couples don't. John and Sarah didn't. My brother and his wife didn't. Of the 47 divorces I've witnessed, 43 of them ended at stage 5. Because one or both people had already given up, had already grieved, had already moved on emotionally. But if you survive stage 5, if you both choose to do the work, you enter stage 6. And that's where the real transformation begins. Stage 6, the rebuild or the exit. Stage 6 is where the marriage becomes something new or dies completely. John and Sarah chose exit. After 2 months of trying, after realizing the foundation was gone, they filed for divorce. It was amicable. No screaming. No fighting over possessions. Just 2 people acknowledging that the marriage was over. They split assets, agreed on custody, stayed civil for the kids. But something changed in both of them after the divorce. John told me years later that divorce was the most painful teacher he'd ever had. He'd spent 6 years taking Sarah for granted, assuming she'd always be there, assuming love was enough. And then she wasn't there, and love hadn't been enough. He learned the lesson too late for that marriage, but he learned it. My brother chose exit too. His divorce was messier. Lawyers, custody battles, division of retirement accounts. It took 2 years and cost him $75,000. And at the end of it, he was alone in an apartment, seeing his kids every other weekend. He'd chosen baseball over his family. And he'd won. He still coached, but he went home alone. For my wife and me, we chose rebuild. And I need to be honest about what that looked like. It wasn't a montage. It wasn't 3 months of couples therapy and then happily ever after. It was 4 years of consistent, painful, daily work. Year 1 of rebuild was just learning to talk to each other again. Really talk. About feelings, needs, fears, hopes. Not just logistics. We did therapy every week. We had date nights every Friday. We instituted a 10-minute check-in every evening where we'd sit together without phones, without TV, and just talk about our days. It sounds simple. It was excruciating at first. We didn't know how to be vulnerable anymore. We'd spent years protecting ourselves from each other. Year 2 of rebuild was learning to forgive. Really forgive. Not just say, "I forgive you," but actually let go of the resentment. I had to forgive her for shutting down, for giving up on us, for being ready to leave. She had to forgive me for years of absence, for choosing work over family, for taking her for granted. Forgiveness isn't an event, it's a process. It's choosing not to weaponize the past every time you're upset. It's choosing to believe your partner is trying. It's choosing trust when you have evidence of betrayal. Year 3 of rebuild was learning to reconnect physically. After years of distance, physical intimacy felt awkward, forced. We had to relearn each other's bodies, relearn how to be present during intimacy, how to communicate about needs and desires, how to be vulnerable in a completely different way. This took longer than anything else, because physical intimacy without emotional intimacy is just mechanics, and we'd spent years going through the mechanics. Year 4 of rebuild was learning to dream together again, to make plans, to see a future. For years we'd been surviving, getting through the day, getting through the week. We'd stopped imagining what we could become. So we started small, planning trips, setting goals, talking about retirement, talking about what we wanted our life to look like. And slowly, painfully slowly, we started to see each other as partners again. Not adversaries, not strangers, but people who'd chosen each other and were choosing each other again. This is stage 6, rebuild or exit. And here's what I learned. Rebuilding is harder than starting over, because you're carrying all the baggage of the past, all the hurt, all the disappointment, all the broken promises. And you're trying to build something new on top of a cracked foundation. Starting over is easier. Clean slate, new person, no history. That's why so many people choose exit. That's why John and Sarah chose exit. That's why my brother chose exit, or more accurately, his wife chose exit for him. Because rebuild is brutal. It requires humility. It requires admitting you were wrong. It requires changing behaviors you've had for decades. It requires vulnerability when you feel safest being guarded. It requires hope when you've been disappointed so many times. Most people can't do it, or won't do it. And that's not a moral judgment. Some marriages shouldn't be saved. Some relationships have become so toxic that exit is the healthier choice. Some partners have done unforgivable things. Some people have changed in ways that make them incompatible. Exit isn't failure. Sometimes exit is wisdom. But if you choose rebuild, if you both commit to it, you enter stage 7. And that's where you discover if you can actually become something new. Stage 7, the new marriage or the final end. Stage 7 is the resolution. The marriage either becomes something new and sustainable, or it ends for good. John and Sarah's marriage ended in 1982. They stayed civil, co-parented their 2 kids, both remarried within 5 years. John told me his second marriage was different, not because his second wife was better, but because he was different. He'd learned the pattern. He'd learned that silence kills marriages, that distance compounds, that resentment is poison, that you can't take your partner for granted and expect them to stay. His second marriage just celebrated 39 years. I asked him what made the difference. He said, "I talk about small things, immediately, before they become big things. I speak up. I show up. I choose her every day." That's what learning the pattern did for him. My brother's marriage ended in 1990. He dated for years but never remarried. He told me he didn't trust himself, didn't trust that he wouldn't repeat the pattern. He still coaches. He's great with his kids now, better than he was during the marriage. But he goes home alone. And I think he still regrets the choice he made in year 13 when he chose baseball. For my wife and me, stage 7 was a new marriage. Not a repaired marriage, a new one. After 4 years of rebuild, after thousands of difficult conversations, after learning and failing and learning again, we became different people. Not the people who got married in 1967, and not the people who almost divorced in 1982. We became a couple who talks about small things before they become big things, who checks in with each other before making plans, who operates as we instead of me, who addresses resentment immediately instead of letting it build, who shows up for each other consistently, who chooses each other daily. It's been 40 years since our breaking point, 40 years of the new marriage. And I can tell you honestly, the new marriage is better than the first one. Because the first one was based on romance and hope and naivete. The new one is based on choice and work and reality. We know each other's flaws. We know our patterns. We know the warning signs of distance, and we course correct immediately. That's stage 7, the new marriage, or the final end. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Where are you? Are there things you're not saying? Needs you're not expressing? Annoyances you're burying? If yes, you're at stage 1, and you need to speak up. Now, today, before it compounds. Are you making decisions without considering your partner? Are you living parallel lives? Are your conversations all logistics? If yes, you're at stage 2, and you need to reconnect. Schedule time together. Make your marriage a priority. Start operating as a team again. Are you keeping score? Remembering every disappointment? Feeling like your partner is the source of your unhappiness? If yes, you're at stage 3, and you're in danger. This is where most divorces are already locked in. You need help. Therapy, counseling, mediation. Something to break the silence and address the resentment before it kills the marriage. Has one of you already emotionally checked out? Is someone already planning an exit? If yes, you're at stage 4, and you're running out of time. This is the crisis point. You need to decide if you're going to fight for this marriage or let it die. Are you in the window after the breaking point? Are you trying to decide if the marriage is worth saving? If yes, you're at stage 5. And you need to know this. Both people have to commit. Both people have to do the work. Both people have to choose the marriage every single day. If one person isn't willing, the marriage ends here. Have you decided to try? Are you doing the hard work of transformation? Or have you decided to leave? If you're rebuilding, keep going. It's brutal, but it's worth it. If you're exiting, do it with dignity. Don't drag it out. Don't make it worse than it has to be. Have you made it through? Has your marriage become something new? Or has it ended and you're moving forward? Either way, learn the pattern. Teach it to your kids. Make sure they don't repeat it. I almost lost my marriage in year 15. I was at stage 4. My wife was ready to leave. And I didn't see it coming because I wasn't paying attention. I was coasting, taking her for granted, assuming she'd always be there. I was wrong. The divorce pattern taught me that assumption kills marriages. Silence kills marriages. Distance kills marriages. Resentment kills marriages. And neglect kills marriages slowly, painfully, and completely. I watch young couples today and I see them in stage 1, staying silent about small things, thinking they're being easygoing, thinking it doesn't matter. And I want to shake them and say, it matters. Say it now. Deal with it now, before it becomes stage 2, 3, 4, 5. I watch middle-aged couples and I see them in stage 3, living parallel lives, accumulated resentment, going through the motions. And I want to tell them, you're in danger. You're running out of time. Wake up before one of you hits the breaking point. I watch older couples divorcing after 30, 40 years of marriage, and I understand exactly what happened. They were at stage 3 for decades, stable but not happy, functioning but not fulfilled. And then one day someone decided they didn't want to spend their last years lonely inside a marriage. So they left. The pattern is real. I've watched it destroy hundreds of marriages, and I've watched a few marriages survive it. The ones that survive all have the same thing in common. They recognize the pattern early. They speak up in stage 1. They reconnect in stage 2. They address resentment in stage 3. They fight like hell in stages 4 and 5. And they rebuild something new in stages 6 and 7. My marriage survived. John's didn't. My brother's didn't. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't compatibility. It wasn't circumstances. The difference was recognition and choice. We recognized the pattern, and we both chose to fight. If you're married right now, look at your relationship honestly. Where are you in the pattern? Stage 1? Stage 2? Stage 3? Don't lie to yourself. Don't minimize. Don't pretend everything's fine if it's not. Because the pattern doesn't care about your denial. It just keeps progressing. And if you realize you're at stage 3, 4, or 5, understand this. You're running out of time, but you still have time. The pattern says what happens next, but patterns can be broken. Not easily, not without pain, but they can be broken. You just have to choose to break them. Today, right now, before tomorrow becomes too late. The hardest conversation you need to have is the one you're avoiding. Have it tonight.